Well, evening everybody. What an absolute pleasure it is to invite you all or welcome you all to the inaugural Virtual Careers Week, hosted by School Notices and our partner Towergate. And over the next 5 evenings, we've got 9 unique and diverse speakers from different businesses who'll try to provide you with an insight into what they do, how they do it, why they got involved, some of the pitfalls that you should try and avoid, and why they would recommend that you choose their chosen business. They'll try and keep it relevant, engaging, interesting, and hope to dispel some of the mysteries around career choices, which we know can be a bit of a minefield. Tonight, we kick off with Rob Simpson of Towergate, chatting about the world of finance and insurance, and then Anna Fotheringham of VCCP explaining about her life in advertising and marketing. Each will speak for about 15 minutes, and we would encourage everyone to use the Q&A facility at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions at all. These will all be put to Rob and Anna at the end of the session. So please do. Questions are important. It's all about you guys at the other end of this webinar, not us. So really appreciate the questions. Before that, I mentioned we're working with Towergate on this webinar series. Towergate Insurance are a leader in providing bespoke insurance coverage for schools and individuals, and have been working closely with the independent school sector and selected charities for many years. Tonight, we're working with a lot of schools. We've got 9 schools on tonight and all their pupils. We've got Bradfield, Marlborough, Downhouse, Dean Close, Cheltenham Ladies, Canford, St Mary's Cairn, Bryanston and Weston Burt, all providing us with a healthy mix of girls and boys from lower and upper 6th. So look, please enjoy it. I'm going to leave you here just a very quick word of welcome from Joe Taylor of Towergate. And then I'll be back to bore you just for 30 seconds more as I introduce our first speaker. Thank you. Over to you, Joe.
Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Jo from the education team at Towergate, and we're thrilled to be supporting this week-long event in collaboration with School Notices. We're passionate about education. It's a sector that we've worked in for many years, and we're always looking for opportunities and ways in which we can give something back to the sectors in which we work. What better way to do that, especially given what we've all been through in the last 18 months to 2 years, than to host an event like this and help our young people in making what can be some pretty difficult decisions. We also work with organisations that are committed to supporting and improving the mental health and well-being of young people and staff in schools. And we're particularly proud to be the supporter of an organisation called the Mindfulness in Schools Project, who are a not-for-profit organisation committed to having a positive impact on the mental health and well-being of young people in schools. Anyway, enough from me. I'm sure you're all keen to listen to the speakers that we've got lined up for you. So enjoy, and I hope you learn lots. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Now I'm going to introduce our first speaker tonight, Rob Simpson from Towergate, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the finance sector, probably in particular insurance, which is his bag. He's been in insurance for over 30 years, so he knows a lot and is very much worth listening to. So, Rob, I'm going to hand over to you now, and we'll give you a bit of time with everyone here, and then I'll catch up later.
Thank you very much, Gordon. I think being in the industry for over 30 years just makes me old. So look, I'll do my best to entertain you all tonight. So good evening, and thank you for everyone for this opportunity to showcase what I consider to be the wonderful world of insurance and insurance broking this evening. As said, my name is Rob Simpson. I'm the Managing Director of Towergate Specialist Division, which is part of a larger group of companies called Ardonna. I'm a professionally qualified associate and also chartered insurance broker of the Chartered Insurance Institute, and I passionately believe in the industry professionalism. I'm going to use the next 15 or so minutes to explain why I believe that you should consider an insurance career or insurance broking career, which will leave time at the end for any questions which may arise. So if you want to be involved in an insurance industry that faces into the key issues of the world today, including climate change, cybercrime, political risks, driverless cars, drones, oil rigs, spaceships, and sports people, to name just a few, then insurance is the right place for you. So let me tell you a little bit more about insurance, starting with the big picture. It has a global reach and not only underpins our own individual security, but also enables big businesses to operate more freely. Let's put it another way. Without insurance, you couldn't study at university, go on holiday, you couldn't go for dinner, order a pizza, or see your favourite band play live. If you join the insurance profession, you're joining one of the most influential and important parts of the UK economy. The numbers are staggering, with the sector employing more than 400,000 people in the UK alone, and post-Brexit, the City of London remains the heart of international insurance and reinsurance. With the UK contributing nearly 12 billion in taxes alone and investing more than 1.7 trillion of assets. So insurance is not just a client-facing sector, although there are many brokers, underwriters and loss adjusters helping to write business and deal with the impact of major events on businesses face-to-face. There's also many back-office roles in risk modelling, claims and business analysis, plus actuarial and data science for those who prefer scrutinising numbers and giving situations that help their client-facing colleagues to make the right decisions for the businesses. One of the most important points to keep in mind is the role that you do at the start of your career does not define the rest of it. For example, many people start in a claims role but then move to underwriting, loss adjusting or other business areas. In effect, it's easy to have many careers in the insurance sector, and I'll touch on this with my personal experiences towards the end of the presentation. School leavers and graduates from any degree discipline can work in the profession, as you will learn the specialist skills on the job and through important continued professional development. Companies are looking for people with the right attributes, the right skill sets, rather than a particular set of knowledge. And this makes for a diverse, stimulating sector with many backgrounds and careers. So I guess what you're trying to understand is what the earnings potential. Everyone wants to earn a good salary, not just at the start of your career, but throughout it. Starting salaries vary considerably from school leavers up to graduate schemes and people who come from different industries into more senior roles. Salaries in the region of £30,000 for graduates as a starting salary, depending on the company's size and the location, with London often commanding slightly higher salaries. Once you've completed your professional qualifications and shone in your roles, you can aim to significantly increase your salary, as well as have the tools to travel to other markets and career opportunities. Those at the top of the insurance profession can earn upwards of six-figure salaries, with some professionals with a real entrepreneurial spirit establishing their own specialist and more increasingly insurtech businesses. For these people, seven-figure salaries are achievable, not to mention the value of the business that they ultimately create. However, for others, the motivation is less financial and more to offer social value. I'll touch on social value. Insurance is the part of the wide finance sector that offers tremendous social value. Look no further than the launch of Flood Re, the first non-for-profit reinsurance company, which allows those living in prone areas to flood to gain access to insurance where ordinarily cover wouldn't exist. Flood is something that you'll see on the TV regularly now, all over the world, and having cover is really important so that businesses and countries can invest in certain areas. Another example are micro insurance companies in the developing world that have also given security to businesses where they never previously had it. Beyond the many examples, insurance has always been about risk transfer and supporting those in their time of need. So, do you need professional qualifications? Your studies don't end at university or school. Like any profession, there's more to do in order to become an insurance professional. The Chartered Insurance Institute, as I said earlier, is the recognised insurance body and has a number of different level examinations right the way through to advanced diploma levels. It's a globally recognised professional qualification that demonstrates your technical capability to your clients and peers and takes on average about 4 years to complete. Beyond the qualified professional, you will be required to complete 35 hours of additional continuous professional development every year through structured and unstructured learning, with training courses, personal development, which ensures that you keep up to date with industry changes and can continue to provide solutions to your ultimate customers. I just want to add at this point, don't let this put you off. I regularly use what I've learnt and continue to learn every day in situations that have helped my clients and progressed my career. And again, I'll touch on some of these later. Insurance is a global industry, and London remains the centre of the world's insurance industry. If you're looking for a role that gives you international travel, relocating to another country, then insurance is also the industry for you. There are many large companies in the insurance sector with multiple global offices that are looking for highly skilled, capable school leavers and graduates. If you want to move from UK to Australia, Asia, Middle East, Europe, Africa, or the Americas, then there is every opportunity in this great industry. Not all companies are big. We do have some of the top 100 in the Global Fortune 500. You'll find AIG, AXA, Allianz, Munich Re, and many other insurance companies. And some are probably more familiar, not because of the role they play in insurance, but because of their sponsorship contracts, including football, rugby, motor racing, and even drone racing with Allianz. Conversely, there's thousands of small to medium-sized enterprises, all covering different areas, and there's definitely something to suit everyone. Insurance offers hard-working school leavers and graduates a challenging, long-term career. It offers the opportunity to achieve valuable and globally recognised professional qualifications and play an influential role in one of the UK's most significant professions. Insurance is a service that provides a safety net for businesses and individuals, really in times of financial need. And there are some great examples in the press at the moment with the volcano eruption, flooding, fire, all these things going around the world. They happen all the time, and insurance is there to help support the individuals, the people, the businesses, and the government to make right. Covering for repaired house damage caused by flooding, advising businesses on risks that could occur and how to protect their finances. There are different types of insurance, and this includes personal, where insurers cover individuals and their property at a fraction of the value by pooling the risk among the many and paying, hopefully, the claims of the few. Another type of insurance is the commercial, which is business, which is where my focus is. It lets owners run their companies after unexpected events and also allows them to invest freely, knowing that should an incident occur, they have the cover to be able to support them in re-establishing whatever has happened. Another type of area completely different from personal and commercial insurance is special risks. This can be strange and exciting in terms of covering different things, such as if a singer wanted to insure their vocal cords or footballers wanting to cover their legs. They get all sorts of requests on a daily basis. As with any industry, insurance has a huge range of jobs in different sectors and areas. The main sectors in insurance are general insurance, including personal insurance, commercial, corporate insurance, life and reinsurance. These are the different sectors and cover aviation, liability, life, marine, motor, property and pensions. A few of the technical roles particular to insurance that are accessible to school leavers and graduates include being an underwriter, a broker, working in claims, loss adjusting and reinsurance. And again, I'll touch on these later, but I have covered most of those in my career. Career opportunities in insurance are extremely diverse, with roles in catastrophe modelling, underwriting, loss adjusting, risk management, broking and actuarial, again, to name but a few. Now that hopefully you understand a little bit more about the world of insurance, I thought I'd finish my presentation by giving you a real-life example of how diverse a career in insurance can be. By taking you through my own career to date, the many roles and responsibilities that I've had, why I passionately believe in the professionalism and value of the industry, and why you too can have a brilliant career. So, as Gordon touched, I've been in this amazing industry for 33 years, having started off from school myself at a local insurance company, working in the finance team. After a few years, I moved across to the claims division, handling commercial business and injury claims, negotiating settlements with both clients and solicitors before I was headhunted into the underwriting division. In this division, I assessed commercial business risks, providing insurance quotations to cover a host of possible events. And then in my final role at the insurance company, some 10 years after starting, I progressed into portfolio sales management to a number of insurance brokers, which enabled me to gain an understanding of the value that an insurance broker can offer to its clients by the advice that it gives. After 2 further years, I had the opportunity to move across into insurance broking in a sales and management capacity, culminating in me personally investing in a business which I modernised, grew, and ultimately sold to a larger group in 2008. I now work for that group, having held a number of senior management positions. My current role, I'm personally responsible for £250 million in insurance premiums, over 425 people across 24 businesses in England, Scotland and Wales. As Managing Director, my role as leader of the division is to lead on the financials, to buy, acquire businesses, people, teams, to deal with human resources, help our people, engage with conduct and regulation, and deal with the operational aspects of the business, including information technology. And then what some people describe as the more fun side of it, the sales and marketing, and then ultimately dealing with the claims as people have claims. And really anything that's required to successfully grow a specialist commercial broking business in the many sectors that we work in. I would summarise, I've continued to have an amazing career. I've progressed from insurance company to insurance broking. I've owned my own business and built a strong reputation with many friends and colleagues that I have built over the years. I'll be honest and say I didn't set out for a career in insurance. I did not really understand it when I was at school. But given my career again, and somebody offered, would you do this all over again? I'd bite their hand off. I couldn't envisage having a more exciting career, being in a better position than I am today. And I would recommend insurance to any one of you. Hopefully this has given you a bit of insight into the insurance industry. And this brings me towards the end of my presentation. Hopefully you'll have lots of questions to ask, and I'll be happy to answer any one of them. So that's the end for me, and hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rob. That is fascinating. And what's interesting about that is such a diverse industry, and you've managed to encompass big corporate life with startup life, which gives you a real flavour of everything. So that was great. Thanks, Rob, very much. And we will be back with questions after our next presenter is Anna Fotheringham, who's sitting in mission control at VCCP, one of the world's biggest media agencies. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her story and her industry. So Anna, if you're ready, over to you.
Great. So thanks for the introduction. As Gordon said, I'm a senior account director at VCCP, which is what we call a creative agency in Adland, if you haven't heard the terminology. And I work in its head office in Victoria, which is where I'm sitting now. Control. But it's a global agency with offices in Sydney, Singapore, Prague, Madrid. So it could work in any one of those places as well. And I'm sure you're all quite familiar with some of our work. We do compare the market, so the Meerkats, O2, Domino's, Walkers, Nationwide, EasyJet, TfL, tons of other smaller accounts. And the one I work on, which is Mondelez, which you may not have heard of, but I'm sure you will have heard of their brands or consumed them. So I work on Cadbury, and I also work on Maynard's Bassett's, but we also have Dairy Lee and Green and Blacks in the building. But I am not here to tell you a story about VCP. I'm here to tell you a bit about advertising and what that actually means and what you end up doing if you decide to take a career in advertising. And when I was thinking of what to talk to you about, I tried to think back to what I would have found really useful when I was 18, because I remember finding it an incredibly daunting time. You feel like you have to make some really big life decisions without really knowing what you want to do yet or having tried anything out. And I think on that note, it's worth saying that one of the things I have learned in the last 12 years since being 18 is that you don't need to worry about that side of it so much. Not many people have a linear career path, and you certainly do not need to stay in the same industry that you start out in. If anything, you should try out as many different things as you can. Lots of them, I'm sure, will have transferable skills. So it's all good experience, and it makes you a much more diverse and well-rounded person. I have absolutely loads of friends who have such varied careers. Equally in advertising, I have to say there is such a diverse range of people. In fact, no one I work with in this building did some form of further education or a degree in advertising. There's people who are ex-professors, ex-city workers, teachers, own small businesses, worked in the fitness industry, and I'm sure none of them thought that they would be in this career when they were 18. But I am a slight exception to that rule. I pretty much always knew I wanted to work in advertising. I'm not really sure how I knew that because I had no idea what it actually was. And I think the way I kind of made that decision was when I was doing my A-levels, my favourite subjects were economics and art, which is a bit of an odd combination. You normally go down a business route or a creative route. But I knew I wanted to do something that combined those two things. And I think to explain what advertising is, that really is quite a good summation of it. It's solving business problems by communicating the right product or service to the right person in a compelling and usually quite creative way. So I did a gap year. I then went off to Newcastle University. I studied fine art after a little blip where I started doing business management and then decided to do art. And my degree was 4 years and I did a gap year. So I was quite conscious that a lot of my friends would be 2 years into a career when I finished my degree. So in my third and fourth year, I went on a bit of a mission to get work experience in advertising because everyone I had spoken to about it told me that the way you get a job in advertising is to do work experience. And I have to say, that is totally correct. I would still give that guidance today. I said advertising is really diverse and inclusive. It is. And your degree is not a judgment criteria for getting this job at all. You don't even need one, to be frank, although it's obviously not a bad thing if you do decide to go off and get one. But you do need to show ambition and passion for the industry by doing work experience and also reading up on it. I remember I got Campaign magazine every single month and I had no idea what I was reading, but I made sure I knew what the current kind of advertising cultural context was before I did any work experience so I could talk to lots of people about it. And I managed to get work experience in a few agencies, one of which was VCCP. And as you can probably tell, that was a bit of a gateway of an opportunity for me. Because I met lots of people and did lots of kind of networking while I was lucky enough to be in their offices at the age of 19. And then I went on to apply for their grad scheme. And we still have a scheme today, but it's not called a grad scheme because you don't need a degree. It's called an entry-level scheme. And I think that's quite common in advertising now. You do not need a degree to start a career in advertising. And I got one of their 4 places and I have literally been here ever since. But enough about me. I wanted to tell you a bit about what advertising is and also dispel a few myths about it. So firstly, sorry to disappoint you, but it's not all flying around the world and doing glamorous shoots with celebrities, although you do get to do that sometimes. But brands like Cadbury hire creative agencies like mine to help them establish what and how they communicate. Getting to that final advert that I'm sure you will all have seen on TV and on billboards and on social media, there are a huge amount of people that contribute towards it, all with a different set of skills. So firstly, if you're writing off a job in advertising because you think you're not arty or creative, don't, because that really is just one part of it. And I actually wanted to run you through some of these jobs because when I came and did my 1 week work experience here, and someone told me about them all, I found it absolutely mind-blowing. I had no idea that that is what went into making that advert that you see on your TV screen. And like I say, there's such a diverse range of roles that will accommodate lots of different skills, and I'm sure lots of you. So first of all, there are account handlers. They're sometimes called suits, except no one wears a suit anymore. That's what I do, not wearing a suit. And that's essentially client services. So you are the middleman between the agency and the client. You run the entire process, you get the client to pay you, that's obviously very important, sell in the work, ensure everyone's happy and it all goes to plan. And account handlers are often described as swans because you look graceful and calm above the water, but you're paddling at 1,000,000 miles per hour under the surface. So being a very organised, proactive person is key for that job. And it's also the schmoozy part of the job. You wine and dine the clients, take them to award shows, parties, and various things like that. You've got to keep them on side, that is for sure. So you have to be a pretty sociable person too, and you literally work with everyone that touches the ad, both client and agency side. Then there's what we call planning, which is essentially strategy. And I have to say, these are some of the most academic and intellectual people I have ever met. They either create the client brief or they take the brief from the client and establish how we're going to tackle it. So they explore what our strategy is going to be to solve the business problem that that the client gives us, how we differentiate from the competition, what's interesting about what we're saying, and then normally very into psychology, cultural trends, current affairs, very well read. So if that sounds a bit like you, it's definitely something to consider. And then there's the jobs which most people associate with advertising, the creatives. And they get briefed by the planner and account handler to literally think of the creative idea based on the planner's strategy. And they always work in pairs, which I thought was mind-blowing when I first found that out. There's not many jobs where you always work in a pair. They're like married couples. And they're traditionally an art director and a copywriter. So one does the pictures and one does the words. But that is a bit of an old school way of working now. Most teams do a bit of both. And then there's also a huge production team. So these people actually make the ads. They take the creatives' ideas and they make it happen. And there's lots of different types of production and producers that go alongside it and people that are part of that process as well. So there's TV and commercials, print and stills, huge digital teams who do all the back-end tech development, coding, user experience, digital design. So a massively diverse set of talents. So in a nutshell, there is a huge variety of jobs in advertising. Do not define it as just being arty, although it can obviously be useful for some of the roles, because there's so many other roles available that cover different specialisms. And I'd really recommend it as a career if you don't want to get into a suited and booted city job. If you want a slightly more informal and relaxed environment, agencies are always open plan. No one has an office. They're very unhierarchical places. The CEO will be sitting next to the grad, for example. You can wear whatever you want, within reason, obviously. And lots of people bring their dogs to work and stuff like that. So it tends to be a much more informal setting. That does not mean it's not hard work, though, I hasten to add. It can be high pressure, there's tight deadlines, and you'll have media placement booked and sometimes a client breathing down your neck. However, you get to do some very, very cool stuff. And I think that makes it all worth it for me. I've done international shoots. I've flown to Mallorca and Croatia. I should have been in South Africa this year with my South African clients. If it wasn't for COVID, which was slightly annoying. I shot with George the Poet. I've done various VO recordings with Sean Bean. When I was on O2, we shot with Beyonce, the Foo Fighters, and Take That for our priority campaign. And even the ones that don't have celebrities and famous names in them, they're still very cool because I get to see everything I do literally in the physical world, on billboards or on TV screen. And I think that's quite a rare thing to find in a job, seeing the output of your hard graft in physical form in the street in front of other people. And not only that, it ultimately leads brands to make lots of money, which is also very cool. So in a nutshell, advertising encompasses a massive range of roles, from the people that think of the ideas to coding and digital production to managing projects to being a strategic thinker. And as I said, I think getting your foot in the door is key. Once you're in, you're in, and you can move around and try a few different areas of it. And to do that, it really is about work experience. I'm sure that's been incredibly hard for a lot of you because of COVID and everyone's working from home. So I do feel for you. But I do think businesses will be opening their doors again soon for work experience, and lots of agencies do it. And that will really lead to contacts and relationships that help you get that first job. And on that note, as I said, most agencies have a work experience scheme. We do here, and I wanted to tell you a bit about it as well. We have something called Ad School, which I actually run. We don't offer ad hoc work experience placements, but we do a dedicated work experience scheme. And the reason we do that is because we found that there were quite a few issues with the traditional work experience process. Firstly, it was very heavily skewed to who you know. So people's dads basically getting them work experience with their mates, which was great for them, but not everyone has those connections and it shouldn't limit your opportunities. And secondly, when we did get people on work experience on an ad hoc basis, we don't think they actually got a realistic experience of what it was like to work here because everyone was too busy and running around and they just got given a load of boring tasks. So what we do is a 1-week intensive program for about 16 people. You have to apply. There is an application process where you have to kind of showcase your creative talents. And you have a timetable of talks from experts in all the different specialisms. And you work on a real client brief, which you then pitch back at the end of the week. And I think if you're interested in advertising, I'd highly recommend it. That is the exact same work experience that I did. And here I am 8 years later sitting in the office. And the next one for that will be next summer in 2022. The other thing you can think about, whether you're going to uni or not, is, as I said, an entry-level scheme. They'll be called in advertising. So ours is called The Table. It's called that because our founding partners decided to set up the agency around their kitchen table. And most agencies have some kind of scheme like this, which basically allows people that have absolutely no previous experience in advertising to go for a role. And you normally get placed in account management. On our scheme, you actually get the choice based on your skills to work in account management or planning. And you'll have a 3-week training schedule before you get put on a real account and set off to work. So our applications normally open at the end of January, so not too far away now, for roles beginning in mid-August next year. So definitely something to consider if what I've said sounds mildly interesting to you, or one of those roles sounds like they'd be right for your skills, if you want to move straight into a career or after uni. And I think that is probably coming to the end of my 15 minutes, so I will leave it there and hand back to Gordon.
Thank you, Anna. That is amazing. What's so nice about that is it's very clear that you don't necessarily need a degree, or in fact, the degree you start doing history of art into advertising. I mean, you know that it doesn't need to be what you end up with. I think that's quite encouraging and very well. I think clears the waters a little bit as to the process in there. Now, listen, we've had loads of questions, which is really testament to you guys and the story you've been telling. And I've got questions for both of you. So if you're very happy just to take a few questions now, I'll ask you in no particular order, just really as they've come off the wires. Anna, it's clear that a degree isn't really necessary, but what degree would be useful for a job in advertising, do you think?
Honestly, I don't think it really matters. I think you can do whatever degree that you want to do, that you find interesting at the time. There is such a diverse range of people's degrees here. I think if you really wanted to try and do something that you might use in the day-to-day, something like psychology, because that's quite, what we do is quite embedded in working out how people think and how we can respond. But honestly, it really does not. It does. Everyone here has done lots of different degrees. You learn when you start doing the job, I think, in terms of what you need to know to do it.
Best way to do it. Learning on the job. There's nothing quite like it. Rob, one for you here. You should be able to answer this one. What's the difference between a broker and an underwriter?
Okay, so I'll try and do this as quickly as possible. An underwriter tends to work for the insurance company who puts a premium on the risk that you're presenting to them, and a broker is as a middle person who liaises on behalf of the client, giving them advice and recommending insurance products from the underwriter or the insurer.
Okay, very good. Like that. Okay, Anna, another one for you here. Is advertising something one can do on one's own in the long term, or do you need the backing of a big company? That's obviously from a young budding entrepreneur.
Well, it depends what role you want to do within advertising, I suppose, because we do get freelance studio resource, I suppose. If you want to be a designer, digital designer, coder, that kind of stuff, or there's After Effects people who do kind of animation and things. You can be like a one-man band sort of thing who then get hired by agencies to do it, if that was what the question meant.
Yeah, okay, I think that probably answered it. Here's another one for you, Anna. In the digital age, how much room is there for human input into advertising?
Oh, still a lot. Science and art is something that we talk about a lot. I mean, there's actually a lot of really interesting case studies. If you have a look at, there's places in Japan who have got robots to build adverts instead of people, and looking at the difference in output. And they're normally fine, but I don't think you can replace the human brain and connecting emotionally with technology. I think the two can come together very well, but it will definitely never replace it.
Yeah, that's encouraging to hear. I like that. Rob, one for you here. Someone said here, what played the biggest part in landing your first job?
The careers office. If I'm honest, as I said in my presentation, I didn't start off to want to go into insurance. I didn't think of insurance. I didn't really know much about insurance. But as soon as I got involved and joined and realised that you could actually learn, I literally spent 18 months in each department learning each bit and wanting to move on, wanting to progress. And I think if you've got desire and hunger inside you and want to do all sorts of different roles, then it's a great opportunity. People won't give you these roles. You have to go out and find them and network with people, get to know them, and start to get your name around the company. And that's where it can be fantastic.
Okay. And what sort of skills, what sort of skills do you need to succeed? What sort of person do you need to be?
There are so many different roles, but if I look at my career, I think the thing that stood out for me is being able to engage with people. And so I deal with clients of all sorts, and I've sat in their offices and become friends with them. And you don't become friends over insurance, reluctantly. You become friends over the picture that they've got on their wall, or their dog, or what's happening in football or Love Island, or whatever it may be. It's being able to have emotional intelligence to converse at all levels. And one of the best things that's helped me is being a member of a golf club. I've got friends who are lifelong friends, but when I was 14, I had to sit at a table and talk to people who are in their 60s, 70s, and converse on all different subjects. And I think it's that emotional bit, the social side, being a group with sporting groups or theatrical groups, but just having that wide diversity of friends and sort of relationships, really. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anna, one here says, is there a future for glossy magazines and print advertising?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like an interview question. What's the future of print versus digital? But I mean, obviously, I'm not being naive. The digital world is huge. But I also do think people are kind of going back to their home comforts a little bit. And I think people are beginning to reject the digital world a bit because it's becoming quite intense. So I don't think traditional media, as we'd call it, is going to go anywhere. It will just be supplemented by digital media, because there's still a massive audience of people that want to read their printed magazines and their Sunday newspaper and all those various things. But we just have to reach the other set of people that consume via digital media as well. So I think it's just going to be balancing the two of them together in the future.
Okay, I get that. Okay, another one for you, Anna. I think you may have answered this actually in your earlier bit, but how important is creativity when working within advertising? Do you need to be creative?
It depends, again, what the role you want to do. Obviously, if you're a creative, you've got to be creative. I think my role is still quite creative, because throughout the process, you do have to kind of be a bit of a diplomat, I suppose, and do kind of the creative debating with the agency and with the client. I think there are other roles where you don't have to be so creative, which is why I said don't be put off if you're not creative. But there is definitely a section where you do have to have a creative brain. But then if you kind of work in the tech side of it, obviously it's a different type of creativity. So it really depends what bit of it you want to get into, I think.
Okay. Rob, just someone here wants to know, and I don't know whether you touched on this, but do you need a degree to go into insurance, or can you go in straight from school?
No, you don't. But again, it comes back to my previous answer, which is effectively there are so many different careers. If you want to be a financial accountant in insurance, yes, you could go down that route. If you want to be a lawyer in insurance, yes, you need to go down the law degree side. It all depends. We've got loss adjusters, and loss adjusters can have surveying experience. So there are many, many ways to get into various careers in insurance.
Okay, that's good. I like that one. Okay, just a couple more now. Do you need to be good at maths to go into insurance? Probably.
If you're writing numbers down and calculating premiums, yes. If you're in finance, yes. But no, you don't have to be a genius. I know lots of people in finance who are not a genius with numbers. It's how you apply yourself is more important.
I went into insurance with an F in maths A level. So how about that? That sort of answers that one. Anna, one for you here. What do you find is the hardest part of your job?
That's a good question. I think the hardest part for me is I'm quite reliant on other people doing their job well. Because as an account handler, you have to kind of pull the entire process together and essentially get lots of people to do different bits. So it totally comes down to the team and galvanizing a team and obviously having a good team spirit between all of you. But I do find it hard when, you know, the not very regular times where you have someone that's a bit of a slacker, it then reflects badly on all of us, but also especially me as that kind of front of house between agency and client. So I find it frustrating sometimes that that's out of my hands, but it's a rare occurrence, I will say.
Excellent. Okay, and one for both of you here. I'm going to ask Rob first. This is a question from me. How do you think your industry is going to change in the next 10 years, let's say? So anyone who's listening now is probably doing A-levels or working out, you know, about to go into the A-level year. They're probably thinking they might go to university. They might be looking at a job in 3 or 4 years' time. How's your industry going to change in 4 or 5 years' time, Rob?
Okay, I'm going to start off slightly strangely, but by talking about where it's not going to change. Relationships and people will always be key. Where it will change is the use more and more of data and using analytics to improve efficiencies, but and also driving what we do and decisions we make. So there will be a change more to a digital front. But as I say, the relationships still remain critical. People want to buy from people and take advice from people. Yes, there's commoditized sides that are the more simple and repeating types of insurance that people understand. But where people need advice, they will always have people in front of them or like tonight in a virtual world. And that's pretty new for us as well, having the virtual world. And that's been fast forwarded by the pandemic. And it's great that all these businesses can now trade from home or virtually, and it doesn't matter where you are. So I think that's going to lean more and more into the way we work with flexible working and hybrid working.
Brilliant. And Anna, same question for you. What changes do you think are going to be undertaken?
Well, I think there's a couple of things which have already started actually. So I think the first is there's lots of government legislation coming in about advertising high fat, salt and sugar items, which is not ideal when you work on a chocolate brand. But there's lots of legislation coming in which is being brought in for the right reasons and is the way, you know, that's the way it worked with tobacco and it's the way it worked with alcohol. So next it's kind of junk food. But I think it's a good challenge. I mean, we have to get on board with it and appreciate why it's being done. And that's so that you don't sort of advertise those products to children. So that's going to be a huge step change in the way that we think about advertising. There'll be lots of things we can't do that we used to do. And I think we're going to have to totally rehaul how we respond to briefs and how we think about things. And that's happening in the UK at the moment, but I'm pretty sure it will begin to happen in different global markets. So in a way, it's quite exciting for us that we're going to be the pioneers in how we respond to that. Yeah. And I think the other thing which is interesting, which has already started, is people becoming very protective of their data and the adverts that get shown. So that's already begun. But I think people are beginning to get a bit anti-digital advertising, to be honest, and they don't like it when brands sneak around and use their data to try and serve them ads. So I think the way we do that will have to change slightly. And I actually think people will start going back towards traditional media, which you sort of choose to consume or gets placed physically in front of you, like billboards and physical print ads and stuff like that, because I think everyone's cottoning on to the digital world. So that will be an interesting challenge.
Brilliant. All right. Well, look, thanks both of you. That's been fantastic, and two very, very different industries. And you've both been very eloquent in your portrayal of what you do and why you like it and all the rest of it. And I'm hoping it was really fascinating for those that were watching. Before we pack up and say goodbye, thanks to you two, obviously. Thanks to Towergate. Thanks to all the schools that have participated, and to everyone who spent some time logging in and watching us online. And don't forget, tune in tomorrow. Rob and Anna have been amazing, but we've got two equally amazing people tomorrow. We've got Richard Quinn, who's one of the world's leading fashion designers, young fashion designers, which will be amazing. And we've got Michael Quintana, from works at Hawkeye, who's going to talk all about AI and all that sort of stuff. So all those gamers out there, there is a future for you all in the AI industry. And Michael and Richard will talk to you tomorrow about that. So same time, same place, 6:30 login, but 7 o'clock start. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Anna. And good night, everybody.